Welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm here with Anne Krupke from Microsoft, and we're talking today about Microsoft Next-Gen Demand Planning feature for Dynamics 365 supply chain management. And throughout the next hour or so, we'll talk about demand planning itself, some core features, such as what-if analysis capabilities, collaboration features. We will highlight some use cases in an end-to-end demo so you can see how it ties into your Dynamics 365 supply chain management instance and how you can continue your investment in the platform. And we will talk a little bit about business value. You can see the impact. And last but not least, maybe Anne has some roadmap items that she may share with us or may not to keep the suspense up. Let's start with a short intro, and maybe that's a good point for you to introduce yourself with a short introduction.
Absolutely. My name is Anne Krupke. I am a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Microsoft, responsible for marketing for Dynamics 365 supply chain management and commerce. My history is that I started in the partner channel doing Dynamics 365 implementations, where planning and demand planning was one of my focus areas. And then I went to Microsoft as part of the fast track team, and now I'm on the marketing side.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and very, very happy to have you here and participate in that webinar. Couple words to myself. Chris Aguirado, I'm leading the supply chain management and mixed reality practice here at Mazars. If you haven't heard about Mazars, Mazars is a full system integrator. So from Azure infrastructure to Dynamics 365 F&O, CE, client care, custom dev, Power Platform, we're doing it all. And we're happy to assist you if there's any need. And my team specifically focuses around supply chain management, manufacturing, mixed reality needs. But enough about the formalities. Let's jump right in here and have some fun. This is the agenda today. First, we'll start with an intro to Dynamics 365 demand planning. And then we talk about, or we go into an end-to-end demo. And we talk about business value and roadmap, as I just explained. The three learning objectives that I want you to get out of today's session or today's webinar is, first of all, you understanding Dynamics 365 demand planning's core capabilities and features, so you can envision how it can help your business, and you being able to navigate through that process end to end, as well as the third one is you being able to identify business value of that application or feature. That's it. Let's jump right into it. Before we actually get started and talk more about the application itself, I want to zoom out a bit and take it at a higher level. So where does demand planning actually sit, right? If you're talking about the full end-to-end supply chain process where we design a product, where we plan, where we procure, manufacture, and where we store and ship it, where we have back-end operations that we need to process, where does demand planning actually sit? And demand planning is sitting or is part of the planning phase. Here you can see it on that slide, right? And it's demand forecasting specifically is part of a larger demand planning process where you analyze internal, external data to predict sales, predict demand. So to be specific, you use current sales history, market trends, seasonality data, and so on to optimize your business ability to meet customers' demand. And usually demand forecasters use predictive analysis here to spin the data about the past and bring it in the future to see or predict what the customer really wants in the future. Typically you would run forecasts for the upcoming 18 to 24 months-ish, but the forecast period can vary from industry to industry, product to product, or product category to product category. And your company may adjust those predictions frequently as you review new data coming in or changes in the market conditions and so on. And what I want to highlight here is the importance of demand forecasting as part of that demand planning process, and that it is a continuous exercise that your business is doing, hopefully. And fortunately, technology solutions like Dynamics 365 demand planning can help you with that undertaking and support you in that continuous demand planning operations. And we see in a couple of seconds when we go into the demo, some of those features that make it very easily to repeatedly go through that process. And why is demand planning so important? there are risks if you don't do it right. Inaccurate forecast or demand pose significant risk, potentially resulting in loss of revenue, inefficiencies across your supply chain. Think about you having you entering the retail store, and you would like to have a soccer ball, a Barca soccer ball, because we all agree that Barca is the best soccer club on this planet, and the soccer ball is not there. You would be very unhappy as a customer. So there's a customer experience element. But also, if you use that scenario and scale it, or think about a manufacturing scenario, you don't have the right product to manufacturing your finished good, and that can delay your delivery. Those kind of things you want to prevent with accurate demand planning. And you also don't, on the other hand, don't want to have an overstock, right? You don't want to carry inventory for ages that doesn't sell. So demand planning helps you navigate exactly that balancing act. And Dynamics 365 demand planning comes in handy here as it translates exactly those tangible benefits. It improves revenue streams, fewer supply chain disruptions or emergency measures, and a reduction in excess inventory. But this was, again, strategically more talking about demand planning itself. And maybe I can throw the ball to you, and you can talk a little bit more about demand planning at its core itself before we jump into the demo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to touch on kind of maybe the history of demand planning in the Dynamics product and why we made the investment that we did and how we thought about it. So for anybody who's been part of the Dynamics community since, we were the on-premises days, there has always been some degree, or for a long time, there's been some degree of demand forecasting that's available. And we did migrate that alongside from AX 2012 to Dynamics 365 when we went to the cloud. But there was a lot of barriers to uptake of the product, as Christian, I'm sure you're very well familiar. There were things like you were saying around continuous planning, around the ease of setup, around really kind of needing to be this advanced statistical forecasting expert in order to generate a demand forecast. And these were things that people struggled with to use our previous set of features. So at Microsoft, what we did is we looked at the process. We said, this is still really important. So how do we approach it differently, right? How do we let customers who want to use, advanced Azure machine learning algorithms to forecast demand versus those customers who are maybe doing it in Excel or, on paper and email, this kind of piece together solutions? How do we build a solution that works for everyone? And that was the mindset that we came into planning our new demand planning capabilities with. So as you'll see in the demo, it's really focused around the ease of onboarding, being able to configure simply and in a guided fashion, making it so, again, you don't have to have a statistics degree to be able to get a demand forecast. And then also really focusing on the user experience of what happens after we create the forecast. Historically, what we see is companies who have these kind of lower maturity demand planning processes. You've got the sales team building their own forecast. You have operations building a forecast. Finance builds a forecast. And the collaboration tools that you're going to see in the demand planning app support a single consensus forecast across the whole business, which, again, was a big tenet of how we designed the product. So hopefully that gives you a good background on why we did it this way and what we were looking to build in terms of what Christian is about to show.
Awesome. No, thanks so much for that little throwback. Yeah, definitely agree that it was a bit more difficult to set up and to use in the past. But also, just for that audience that may already run demand planning and through master planning or the old way of doing things, there is backward compatibility. So rest assured. So if you already invested in a custom machine learning project and you use demand planning or legacy demand planning, so to speak, that is backwards compatible with that new Dynamics 365 demand planning app / feature.
Yes, absolutely. If you've done all the tweaking in Azure Machine Learning, you can connect with your machine learning experiment. It also is still fully compatible with Dynamics 365 planning optimization. So like you said, for supply planning, it's using the same set of entities. So if you're using forecasting today or you're implementing demand planning, we can use those as inputs to the supply plan out of the box.
I actually think this is a perfect segue because we will show now an end-to-end demo from importing your data from Dynamics over doing the magic in the demand planning app to actually extracting it to Dynamics 365 back, running master planning based on your demand forecast, and then firming a planned order. So I think that there's no better way to jump in the demo. Thanks, Anne, for that. This is just an overview of what I'm going through. So I will jump back and forth when I'm going through what I'm showing you in the demo and the slide here. So you understand where I'm at in the process. And you can see it's a circle. It's on purpose a circle because I want to highlight that continuous aspect of demand planning and how easy it is to use, so much easier than it was in the past, right? Let's start with the first step here, that is importing data. Now what you can do is you can import data from one or many data sources. What is pretty handy. We can import custom fields if you would like, and we can have different import profiles, so to speak, that we can continuously repeatedly run, and we can run the import. This is what we're showing in the first little demo. There you go. Awesome. So I'm here in my demand planning app. You can see this is actually built on the Power Platform side of things. And if I'm going to the left-hand side under data management and import, I can see, if it's loading in a second, I can see different import templates, right? I have two here. I want to just highlight the aspect again. You could have one or multiple data sources where you can import your data from. So think about your large organization. You have different instances. You may run Dynamics 365 in North America. You may run something else in Europe. If you want to have that global view, you could do so. You can also tuck in different data sources, so it's not restricted to Dynamics. You can, if you have your data sitting in an Azure Data Lake or in Excel or in other forms or ERPs, you could connect it to the demand planning app and have one holistic view, what is, I think, a big value add. Let's take a look at it, and I show you what I did here. This is our music instance. What is our presets instance? We connected to the base URL, right? So we connected it to our F&O instance. I can see which data or which entities I want to export from Dynamics and import in demand planning. We want to have the historical sales demand entity, the planning picking list journals, the products, the warehouses, the sites, the customer accounts, the legal entities, and so on. And I can see the jobs. So those are the jobs that ran. And if I scroll down, you can see yesterday evening, I ran an import that we have the latest and greatest in data. And if I want to take a look, I can see, for example, here in the products, that there were a couple records that I imported here. So here, those were the products that I added. You can see the product information, the type, the product variant ID, if it was a variant, and so on, right? So again, you can navigate or take a look at the jobs when it was executed, if it failed. What's also pretty nice, for some reason, I show you a couple of scenarios later for exporting and the transformation where things failed. You have a way to see why it failing and can troubleshoot as well. So this is your first step. Let me go back here. Again, I could run it. I don't run it now. I don't want to let you wait for like 3 minutes till it's actually executing. But I want to go through the wizard of creating a new import profile so you can see that there are other options than F&O. And I'm not talking nonsense. So you can see F&O is one provider. We can have CSV files, Excel files, Azure Data Lake stories, and others. This is, again, a connector where you can use different data providers and can pull in your data. That's the first step. So now that we have our data sitting in here waiting for us, what is next? And the next step is actually we still need to, this is now those are random data elements at this point. We need to get them in an order, into a time series kind of format. So the next step that we would do is actually doing a transformation. And again, repeatedly, we can set up transformation templates. Here I use my CS historical demand by product variant location per month profile. I can see I can specify a category where I want to publish the time series data to. Here I just put it to miscellaneous, and later on I can see my result of that planning run here under the miscellaneous data sets. I can have it in different kind of formats. Here I have it in monthly, you can have it weekly or quarterly. I can have a precision. If I want to have it 1-to-1, great. If I want to have it with a precision of 0.001, I can do that as well. And I can see who created it. That wasn't myself. If I'm going to the transformation itself, I can see what data elements I want to have on my X and my Y axis, as well as what dimensions I want to slice and dice. So here I want to filter by delivery date, by quantity. I want to have it in monthly buckets, consolidated, and I want to be able to slice and dice my data by product ID, variant ID, data area ID, what is legal entity, actual warehouse location ID, and unit of measure. So it's pretty much a bare minimum, but it does the job for today's demo. And I can see the jobs. Again, there was a failed one. I want to take a look at what it says here if I'm going into the failed run. And it says here, there's a duplicate column. I did it on purpose, so I had 2 times the product ID added. But I want to show that it is smart enough to tell you why it was failing, or gives you at least an indication to troubleshoot. Okay, so I had 2 times the product ID added as a in the transformation would cause the issue. If I take a look at my run that was completed yesterday, you can see the result of it is that CS HD monthly time series. Okay, so I'm clicking in here. I can see now the output of it, and I have a nice graph that shows me, exactly what I set up. Means by product ID, by data area ID, by product variant ID, by warehouse, by unit of measure. Show me my data that I imported in monthly buckets, consolidated. If I want to, review certain things here, I can do so. I can add also different time series here now if I want to compare it for some reason with, if that would be the North America time series, and I want to compare it to the time series or historical forecast, historical demand, from Europe. I could do so. I could add another time series and overlay those, and it would show in the graph as well as in the time series below. Can download it. I can group it differently. Again, let's say I would just want to have it by product ID and warehouse. I can remove certain filters or dimensions that I want to, not have it incorporate, and I can apply it, and it does the calculation for me now and zoom, so to speak, out. We were at the most granular level. Now we zoomed out a little bit, and I can see data and the historical imported demand in my monthly buckets. Okay, now you think, what is next? This was just getting in order. So now we still need to do our magic in terms of doing the forecast itself. Okay, but there's one more step that I can use. I haven't set it up for this demo, but I want to make sure that you're aware of it. You can use calculation profiles. Again, repeatedly, you set it up once as a one-time setup, and you can repeatedly run those. What it's doing is you can set up calculations. For example, you want to increase by the transformation for some reason by 10%. You could do so. You can later do it also with the forecast series. Here you can, so to speak, do calculations. Is it date offsets? You want to shift it out by X amounts. You want to have logical operators, means validation if an absolute value exceeds a threshold, or so on. You want to increase it by percentage or by threshold. You could do so with calculation profiles repeatedly.
I think the interesting use case for that as well is you can use it to compare data, like the demo month-over-month demand growth percentage does a calculation comparing the growth, which gives you insight into how your data relates to other data, which can then be used for conditional formatting, which I'm sure you'll show a little bit later.
Absolute point. Here, this is the month-to-month demand growth percentage that Anne is referring to. Thanks so much for jumping in here. And yeah, 2 time series that I can compare and have that comparison ratio. And again, shows how to jump on top of what you said, and initially, that collaboration aspect and how you navigate as a tech-affine user, but not as a data scientist. This is the power here. You can have those calculations set up once and you use it repeatedly. Okay, so now that I made you aware of calculations, let's assume we don't want to touch the calculations at this point. We just want to do the forecast. So now I have my time series data set up and it's ready to be used in a forecast. I can take a look. Here I set up the 12-month forecast for with AutoRima, and I talk about the different ways or statistical methods in a second. Again, I can say how I want to forecast. I want to have it in monthly buckets. I want to have it with that precision. I want to have it for 12 months. And the output of that run, again, I can run that template or forecast profile repeatedly here. And I want to publish it to the forecast planning data up top, okay? The 3 out-of-the-box statistical methods are ARIMA, ETS, and Profit, as well as there's Best Fit in the custom Azure machine learning project that we were talking initially. So again, if you're having already invested in demand planning in your custom Azure machine learning model, you can use that here. You can also, if you're new to demand planning and you don't know if ARIMA, ETS, or Profit is the best use for you, you could also run Best Fit, what is spitting out, it runs through all 3 models and spits out what is the best fit based on your data set. It's usually done on the lowest MAPE, what is the mean absolute percentage error. If the lowest MAPE is the best model based on your data set.
And compared to what we had in the previous version of demand forecasting, we had ARIMA and ETS as models that were available. What we've added is Profit, which was based on research by our team in terms of what are the more current algorithms that people are using with success.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is an addition. And I mean, if you think about the usability, I mean, ETS is usually used when you have large seasonalities or quite strong trends. Profit is usually used when there are a lot of missing data sets, so to speak, but also strong seasonalities. And then there's ARIMA if there's an autocorrelation, value A increase results in value B decrease. If it's more an autoregressive integrated moving average model, then you would use that. And of course, there's Best Fit that you can use if you're not aware of that yet and you're starting with demand planning. Let's take a look at the forecast model here. As you can see, it is easy to navigate, and you can add different additions to that forecast process if you want. So if you want to have any kind of outlier removal or so, I can do that via the calculation profile, or I can add certain steps here that the forecast model should do for me. I can run it, again, not running it here because I don't want to let you wait for a couple minutes, and the forecast model, as you can see, took about 10 minutes, so we don't want to do that. But I ran it yesterday for you, as you can see, 225, and the output of the time series is this. This is my forecast for March 2024 up to February 2025. Okay, it's 12 buckets. And if I'm scrolling down, I can see the output for each of the months. And again, by all those dimensions that I added originally. So let's assume this is my forecast that I want to go with, and I'm leader of the supply chain management department, but Anne is maybe the leader of the retail department or any other department that is doing demand planning. And we want to compare or work together, collaborate, maybe on the same data set, maybe on different data sets, right? And the nice part is here we can add data sets. I can now add a different time series, for example, this one, and use a specific version. I want to use the latest version at this point. Here, this is actually historical forecast or demand data, right? So you can see I can also overlay historical data or input data that I used with the forecast and see how it's actually lining up. This doesn't really line up very well. But again, this is just you can see there's demo data that was used.
You can use a calculation to shift the historical demand forward 12 months, which gives you a view of the demand forecast and compare it to the data at the same time in the previous year. So you can take that historical demand and use a calculation to time shift it forward for that kind of gut check. Absolute
point. And let's assume this is something we really like. We can save that actually as a worksheet, right? And can repeatedly again use it again. I can share it with my coworkers that can then use the same transformation profiles, the same calculation profiles, the same forecast, import, export, and working sheets. Let me go into a worksheet that I prepared and show some of the calibration scenarios. Here I have my CS worksheet, right? Where I have, again, two different time series one is the forecast and one is the historical demand of the input that I could shift out, but this one I just left it there to show the art of the possible. If I'm going here, I can say, hey, I don't want to show it in a chart. I may just want to show it in the grid. I can also add some conditional or grid formatting here. So that was what Anne mentioned earlier. If I want to add a rule, for example, if there's a value greater than 1, I just make it up. I want to fill the color with red and an icon. Maybe it's this exclamation mark, because that's something we should take a look at. Again, you're very flexible in terms of what you can put in here: greater than, equals, less than, between equals, and so on. You have different colors that you can fill in and different icons as well. And this is the preview of how it would look. Let's do that.
And you can use values from another time series. That's the parameter at the top. If you're, for example, overlaying growth over the demand forecast, then you would be able to select the other time series to populate the conditional formatting.
Absolutely on point. Let's take a look how that looks like. So don't get scared when it's getting a lot of red columns right now, but I want to make sure that you can see that. Let me just going out to our forecast data set. Actually, let me do this.
You can also add filters on the dates, right? So
Yep.
if you don't have data for a certain data set, you can filter the whole workspace down by a set of dates by adding filters. Yep.
I can have a date range up top here at the header. I can have for a specific product, if I just like, my soccer ball, because I really like Barcelona, I can do so and can take a look at that specific product itself. And here you can see the conditional formatting. Again, it's very simplistic, or I showed it in a very easy way, but you get the vision, right? You can have different values or percentages that you want to highlight in colors. That means good. Red means, you maybe should take a look at, and so on. Another cool part of is the commenting feature. If I want to comment on a specific value or column, I can do so. I can say, hey, here, comment, and maybe Anne and myself want to collaborate here. And I can say, I already put a comment in here, actually. Cool. I say, and that doesn't look right. Can you please review? Essentially, right? I can, again, make a comment on it, and it is tracked. Also, if I go to the version history, you can see what I did here, who ran it, was the adjustment made. You can see that I changed on February 8th a value in that specific cell, and so on. Let's actually go into, let me show you how that works. If I want to adjust values, because I think that, the red value says, or I think that's not correct, or we, Anne and myself collaborate, we have that sheet open, we work on it together, and we think that's not accurate, right? There must be a mistake, or the statistical method may not consider recent events. There may be a World Cup or whatever it might be, right? I can edit. I can go into the individual cell, right, and say, hey, no, 100 is accurate, and save the changes. Again, if I do that manually across all those cells, it would be probably a lot of work. Let's assume I know all those months are wrong. They should be lifted by X amount of quantity. I can do so by simply going to the totals and confirm, and you can see it will spread out across the buckets for me. Okay. Additionally, and maybe Anne, you probably touch on it later on how you can, with certain interactions. I'll probably hold off on that, but you will, Anne will probably come back to it in a second, how you can also intelligently work with potentially Copilot or other features and work with those capabilities in order to adjust values more efficiently. I save it now, and you will see that my values are adjusted for it. Let's assume that I, don't want to have all those different dimensions, right? I just want to filter it or group it by warehouse, actual warehouse, maybe by legal entity and the product, and no product variant. And maybe we want to start with the data area ID, so I can move that up. So I want to see by legal entity, right? Because I'm only responsible for US and is responsible for Europe. And at this point, I just want to check do my due diligence. I can do so. And now I see here all the, for that data area ID for that product, for that warehouse and that actual warehouse, I can see the totals in that kind of structure. Again, if I want to shift it again or group it in a different way, I can do so by just shifting those things up and down. Why I want to show you that is it's very easy to slice and dice, zoom out, zoom in, and go left and right. Again, very easy to navigate, to work with, and to review. Okay. Then you can have the download option that generates a CSV file if you want to take an offline copy of it. That's another cool part. And again, you have the ability to add different time series to compare, to collaborate with other departments, and use in the end calculation profiles. If, for example, N takes care of Europe, I take care of US, and you will combine those. Again, we can use the calculation profiles to combine those to a holistic view, and have just one time series representing that. And anything else you want to highlight on the working sheet? Because I know that was a big area.
Teams collaboration. So if you click the chat icon on the right side,
yep.
The value of this is you are connected. I hope I'm not showing your work chat, but okay, good. So this is embedded teams within the product. We've again focusing on user experience. You don't have to navigate away, and you can actually create connected chats to a specific time series. So when you go back and you're trying to remember, hey, what was that conversation Chris and I had about this particular time series? The history is tracked against the specific time series we're talking about. So if you click new connected chat, it'll pop up in a small window. And then once you put all the information in, it just pops up above the screen. You probably won't be able to find me, but it makes it really simple to do that collaboration, especially for people where maybe I'm not a user of demand planning, but Chris still needs to talk to me. He can do everything from the demand planning side, where I'm just working in regular teams. So I think that's a great feature to highlight.
Absolute point. I mean, the user experience and how you engage with your demand planning itself or the process is incredible. I mean, collaboration, you highlighted here with other peers via Teams, via commenting, but also, again, the co-pilot feature itself, where if you want to inquire into your data, I mean, you will touch on it most likely in a second. This also
That's
very
the Office icon, I think. But again, Office is embedded in all of our products. We'll talk about roadmap in a few minutes, right?
Yep, absolute point. Not stealing the thunder here. But again, let's assume we just adjusted or we just finished the forecast and collaborated and myself agreed. We will go and export the data, right? So if I'm going here, I can have an export profile. And again, I use my base URL. I can map whatever data I want to export. Here, I want to just export the product, the warehouse, and the product variant ID. I can also specify rules. And here, I just wanted to export again. I didn't want to wait too long, so I just exported or filtered for one specific product. What is T0001? I want to export it to my USMF legal entity and to my focus model CS focus model version 1. And I can see my jobs that ran. Okay. And after I run it again, it's there in a one-time setup, and I can run it repeatedly. And another feature I want to highlight before I jump into Dynamics itself is you can check who has access to that specific profile. I can see currently those folks in my organization have access to it, read, write, create, and so on. Also interesting or good to know, good inquiry that you have on those profiles itself. But let's assume we just exported it. Let me go to my Dynamics 365 instance. And I'm going to data management first. And I can see for the export itself here, if I'm going, well, it is an import into Dynamics, right? So I can take a look what actually happened here. I know that 36 values were created, right? Why so little values, or so not too many values, right? If I could take a look at a few staging data, I see that just the T001, that was the filter that I created, right? For my export profile, that I only exported from demand planning, imported into Dynamics 365 F&O. I only imported those values, right? Just the quantity, the demand quantity, which warehouse, the product name, means variant ID, and the product number, right? Those were the 3 values that I populated in the export profile. And you can see everything completed, and it's tied to my forecast model. If I take a look at my forecast model, actually, let me use this one. I can see here's my forecast model, and I just have the items flagged here. I could have submodels as well if I want to, orchestrate models via parent-child relationship. At this point, I kept it very simple, but I want to show you also the master plan before we actually take a look at the planned orders that it created. So I'm going to my master plan itself. You can see I have my forecast model associated here. I included the demand forecast. I can also, if I want to use methods to reduce the forecast requirement quantity via specific methods, I could choose it here. I have a dynamic period, and I know that I have for that item, I don't have any sales orders, purchase orders, or requirements in the future. So it should be pretty raw in terms of what you will see in the actual demand plan and the master planning outcomes. If I'm going real quick to my released products, and I go to my T0001 item, I want to show you that first before we go. And I'm going to my demand forecast. That's where I imported from demand planning. I can see what was imported here, right? And I can see, for example, for 3.1, there was the 31 were imported for that warehouse 11, site 1 for my product T001. Again, this came from the demand planning app and was imported into Dynamics 365. Via master planning, I can now use those values to include them in my planning runs. Again, it's running based on planning optimization, and you saw my setups on the master plan. If I'm going to master planning itself, I could run it now, but I ran it yesterday for you already, so we're not waiting for it. If I'm going into my demand master plan, right? This is the master plan that I just showed you. I can see if I'm going to filter by T001, and I'm going to the 53. This is the value that was created, and let me actually open up that you can follow me. I open up the release product again, that you can follow me in terms of where the 53 is coming from, because there were 2 values in the March bucket that added up to 53. Maybe that's good to show. Use the search bar in the action pane, and I'm going to my release products form. One more time, filter for T001. I'm going to my demand forecast. And if I'm going to here, you can see there is for the March bucket, there's actually a quantity of or demand plan, like I ran it a couple of times, right? So you can see there's a 1, a 31, and a 22. Of course, if you add them up together, they will be adding up to the 53. Actually, I didn't run
one was in warehouse 21, so that would be a separate planned order.
Correct. There you go. So it's 53 for that specific warehouse, and that's actually a planned transfer order because we set the item coverage code up that way on the product. I can show you that too. So here on the item coverage, I set up this specific coverage as a transfer order from the main warehouse 21. So this is the planned transfer order from warehouse 21, and we have another order that is actually trying to purchase for warehouse 21 plan, where it's created a planned purchase order. Okay, so here it tucks back into your standard master planning process, where I can now firm the order and follow my standard purchase order or transfer order process. So it was a full loop. Let me go back real quick to the graph to highlight or to recap what we did. We first went into the importing side of things, where we imported data from Dynamics. We did a transformation. All that unstructured data we put in a time series model by months. Then we used the data. We didn't do calculations at this point. We could, but we didn't. We used that time series transformation data and created a forecast based on ARIMA. And we collaborated on the forecast in working sheets. adjusted values, commented on it, had the teams option open, and so on. We could run what-if scenarios, overlaying different time series, having formatting and different formatting on the grid, and can share, create, and save worksheets. We exported it. Last but not least, it's ending up in Dynamics, and we can run standard master planning on it and firm orders. So this is the full process. If we next month need to run it again, we have all those components, the base ingredients of, or the recipe of that menu here. We have that already set up and can repeatedly cook the meal, if that makes sense. And that was a short little demo, glimpse into the end-to-end process. And is there anything you want to highlight or add before we jump into the business value discussion?
No, I think that was great.
Awesome, cool, thank you. Now that you saw, first of all, what demand planning actually is, and we talked about it from, in Microsoft standpoint, but also outside of Microsoft, what demand planning is, what's the business problem it tries to address. We talked about Dynamics 365 demand planning itself and the application. So we talked about the business problem, the solution, and now you already hopefully know or saw the business value of that feature, especially if you're already on Dynamics and you're already using master planning. This is a nice addition to make you more quicker, better, stronger in terms of those five reasons here, or those are 5 that I want to highlight at least. First of all is the business value of visibility. As you could see, it is much easier to have that visibility in the historical demand, in the forecasts, all on one platform, especially if you're running different ERPs or systems where you have your data in different in a data lake or in different sources. You can have it now on one platform and consolidate, collaborate here on one platform with your data. This is a big advantage that I'm seeing. Another way or another aspect is collaboration. You have that enhanced collaboration across departments. You see, you could comment, you have the team chat, you have version tracking. If Chris did an adjustment and you want to see who did the adjustment, you want to blame me, you can do so. No, that's not the point, but you get what I'm saying. You can collaborate, you can comment. It's a different user experience. And demand planning itself is never an individual task. It is a task across different departments, across the organization. It touches different departments. So that is a big value at the business value. Then also efficiencies. I touched on the couple times purposely. That you can reuse those templates. It's a one-time setup in terms of creating those profiles and those connectors for the import-export to Dynamics or other data sources, those calculations, and you can repeatedly run those. And you don't need to be a data scientist. Those are 3 that I want to highlight. And you want to talk about the other 2, or I can take those as well?
Sure, I think that the reporting capabilities that we provide out of the box let you both interactively slice and dice, but also create reusable reports to really draw your attention to what needs to be worked on. We'll talk a little bit about ways we're going to enhance that in just a minute. And then I do think that there's a key piece here, compatibility, or maybe as we would say, composability. It is part of Dynamics 365. It's natively integrated. That is, the key use case. But if you're in the middle of a 5-year ERP implementation, you can start demand planning immediately and connect to all of your ERPs, right? I think that that's a really great value proposition, as well as the fact that, like you said, if you're using what we currently have for our demand planning, it's really easy for you to adopt what we've just released and get all the benefits of the great new features.
Awesome. No, I think that was a perfect end of the business value slide. Let me throw the ball to you. I know I was teasing you in the beginning in terms of maybe Anne shares a little bit about roadmap. So we are, I think, at that point to throw the ball to you for that.
Let's do it. So all of this information, I'll start by saying, is publicly available. It's on the release planner, aka.ms/release planner. Can take you to the form where you can build your own release plan and keep track of everything. But I have summarized what we're planning to release on the roadmap in wave 1 of 2024. So that's from April to October this year. We are introducing additional support for the new product introduction part of the lifecycle. We know for when you need to forecast demand for a new product, you don't have any history to forecast off of. So we're adding support for being able to estimate what the demand will be when you have no historical forecasting. We're also really focusing on, I'll highlight under there, rolling plans. So the fact that forecasting demand planning is a continuous process, we're emphasizing that capability. You'll see that come out by GA in April. We're adding more flexibility as well, so time fence control as well as freezing. So you may not want to make changes to the next 3 months next time you run the demand plan, but you want 3+ months or 4+ months all to be edited. We're adding additional control there and more filtering capabilities, as well as support for multiple units of measure for the same product. In terms of usability, we're going further by adding planners workspaces, and we're deepening our integration with Excel, including support for qualitative forecasting. Security and automation is a huge thing. It's a huge aspect of user usability and control of the process. One of the things that's coming with GA in April is the ability to determine row-level access to a forecast. So if Christian is the manager for the US and I'm the European manager, then I only have access to edit anything in Europe, and Christian only has access to edit in the US. So we can now support that level of granular access control. We're also adding more automation to being able to schedule the jobs for things like import, export, and forecast calculation. So right now, as Christian showed, you have to kind of kick them off manually, but going forward, you'll be able to schedule those and cascade that down to calculating related time series. So if I update my demand forecast, then my error calculation should update, my growth calculation should update, and things like that. And then kind of the most exciting thing, I waited till the end, last but not least, we have Copilot capabilities coming in April as well. So what that looks like right now is that we're going to be able to use Copilot in demand planning to ask questions about the data. First, focusing on how in our internal data correlates. There's all this external data out there, and it's definitely something we've talked about. How does weather impact, or how does X, Y, or Z impact? But for the most immediately relevant insights, looking at your own data and being able to correlate not only historical demand, but other factors to understand trends in your forecast is going to be really powerful. And of course, with Copilot, it means you get to ask these questions using natural language instead of having to know coding language or statistical forecasting. So I think there's a lot of stuff coming out. It's going to be really exciting. And Chris, you're basically going to have to do an entirely new webinar to highlight all the new capabilities, which is awesome.
I can't wait. I hold you accountable to that one. I'm excited if you can have another one of those, especially around those new features, functions. I mean, as Anne said, this is a very exciting time, especially if you're looking into demand planning or you're facing problems there. Please get in touch. Here are barcodes of our LinkedIn profiles. Please get in touch with Anne, myself. Would love to hear from you and chat with you about your business problems around that, how we can help, and see if potentially Dynamics 365 demand planning is an option to make you bigger, better, stronger. So thanks so much, Anne, for joining. That was a blast. And thank you, guys.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.